When we talk about trusting Allah, it often sounds like a simple phrase, something we say casually when giving advice or comforting someone going through a hard moment. But the reality is that trust only becomes meaningful at the exact point where our control ends. As long as life is predictable, as long as we feel in command, trust remains a theory. It's when life pushes you into situations you cannot fix, cannot calculate, cannot fully understand, that's when trust becomes real. And it is in that vulnerable space that the heart discovers a strength it didn't know it had. Every human being lives with an illusion of control. We plan, we organize, we prepare. We convince ourselves that we can manage every outcome if we just try hard enough. And there is wisdom in planning. Islam never tells us to sit back and wait for miracles. But there comes a moment, sometimes small, sometimes life-changing, when you realize that your efforts, no matter how sincere, cannot guarantee the results you want. That's the moment when your heart has two choices: fall into anxiety or fall into trust. And the one who truly understands Allah always chooses trust. When you reach that point of helplessness, something remarkable happens. You finally stop fighting reality and you begin accepting the divine plan unfolding around you. You recognize that Allah sees what you cannot see, knows what you cannot comprehend, and controls what you cannot influence. This realization doesn't weaken you, it liberates you, because once you stop trying to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, you feel light again. You begin to breathe again. You begin to understand that life was never meant to be lived relying solely on yourself. The modern mind struggles with this idea because we are conditioned to believe that independence is the highest virtue. But in our spiritual tradition, true strength comes from recognizing your dependence on the one who never fails. Psychologically, this is transformative. When you trust Allah, your mind becomes calmer because you're no longer overthinking every outcome. Your emotions become steadier because your heart is anchored to something unshakable. Your decisions become wiser because they are grounded not in fear, but in clarity and surrender. There is also a philosophical beauty in this trust. If the Creator of the heavens and the earth is managing your affairs, then how can anything that reaches you be random? How can anything that unfolds in your life be meaningless? Trusting Allah means understanding that the events of your life are not disconnected pieces. They are chapters in a story written with purpose, even if you don't understand the narrative yet. Sometimes the chapters that hurt you the most are the ones that shape you the deepest. Sometimes the doors that close are the ones that push you to the doors that were always meant for you. But this trust is not passive. It is not waiting without effort. It is working, striving, planning while knowing in your heart that outcomes belong to Allah alone. That balance between effort and surrender is where spiritual maturity emerges. It is the difference between a person who panics when plans fall apart and a person who says, "My job is to try. Allah's job is to decide." When you live with that mindset, nothing in life can break you because your peace no longer depends on circumstances. It depends on Him, and perhaps the most powerful part of trusting Allah is realizing that He never lets a heart rely on Him without giving it something better in return. Maybe not immediately, maybe not obviously, but always with wisdom, always with purpose, always with mercy. So the next time life pushes you into uncertainty, remember, this is not the end of your control. It is the beginning of your trust. And when trust begins, transformation follows. One of the most challenging aspects of trusting Allah is accepting His timing. Human beings are wired to want immediate clarity, quick results, and fast relief. We want the doors to open right now, the problems to resolve right now, the pain to disappear right now. But Allah's timing doesn't operate on our anxieties, it operates on His wisdom. And wisdom requires patience, because what is being arranged for you behind the scenes often takes time to align perfectly. When something doesn't happen as quickly as you hoped, the mind instantly fills the silence with doubt. We tell ourselves that maybe we are being ignored, maybe our prayers aren't strong enough, maybe this situation is stuck. But the delay is not a denial. The delay is often a form of divine protection, slowing you down so you don't walk into something you're not ready for. or shielding you from consequences you cannot yet see. If Allah were to give you everything at the moment you wanted it, some of those blessings would arrive before you had the maturity, resilience, or understanding to appreciate and sustain them. Part of trusting Allah's timing is recognizing that every stage of your life is preparing you for the next one. Sometimes the wait is building emotional endurance. Sometimes it's teaching you humility. Sometimes it's giving you the wisdom to use the blessing correctly when it finally arrives. And sometimes the delay is the blessing itself, teaching you qualities that quick success could never teach you. A heart that learns patience becomes deeper, calmer, and more connected to the divine plan. Psychologically, rushing is a sign of fear. Fear of missing out, fear of failure, fear of being left behind. But trusting Allah reorients your internal world. It teaches you that nothing meant for you will ever slip away, and nothing that slips away was ever meant for you. That realization is powerful. It removes the frantic urgency that destroys peace. It anchors the heart in certainty. If Allah wrote it, it will come. If He didn't write it, no amount of effort can force it. There is also a philosophical dimension to this trust. If Allah is the one who controls time, past, present, and future, then how can His timing ever be flawed? When you look back at your life, you will notice a pattern. Moments you thought were disappointments became turning points. Things you lost made room for something better. Delays that frustrated you ended up protecting you, but you only understand this in hindsight. Trust demands that you apply that same clarity in the present moment, even when the wisdom is not yet visible. The truth is, Allah's timing is not only perfect, it is precise. Every person you meet, every opportunity that arrives, every hardship you face, they all enter your life exactly when they are supposed to. Not earlier, not later. This precision is not accidental, it's orchestrated, and when you start seeing life through that lens, you stop resisting the pace of your journey. You begin to surrender to the rhythm that Allah has chosen for you, and surrender does not mean passiveness. It means working hard, making sincere dua, pursuing goals with full determination, while letting go of the anxiety that comes from trying to control how and when things happen. It means aligning your internal pace with Allah's divine pace, and when you do that, you discover a spiritual peace that nothing else can offer. So whenever you feel impatient, remind yourself that Allah is not delaying your life. He is preparing it. The timing you call late is the timing that will make everything fall into place effortlessly, and when that moment arrives, you will understand why you had to wait. Trust His timing now, so that when His plan unfolds, your heart is ready to receive it. Hardship has a way of stripping away all the illusions we hold about ourselves. It exposes what we depend on, what we fear, what we cling to, and what we truly believe. But when a person chooses to trust Allah in the midst of that hardship, something extraordinary happens. The very thing that was meant to weigh them down becomes the force that elevates them. The struggle doesn't disappear, but its meaning changes. Instead of seeing hardship as a punishment or a setback, it becomes a pathway toward transformation. The human heart grows under pressure. Psychologists speak about post-traumatic growth, the idea that difficulties, when processed correctly, can lead a person to become stronger, wiser, and more grounded than they were before. Islam teaches something deeper, that growth is not accidental, it is divinely guided. Allah allows certain challenges specifically because they awaken parts of the soul that remain dormant during times of ease. Patience, resilience, humility, empathy, these qualities are not learned when life is smooth. They are learned when life tests you. There is a profound shift that happens when you look at hardship as a training ground rather than a dead end. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, the heart begins to ask, what is Allah trying to shape within me through this? That question alone changes everything. It moves you from a place of victimhood to a place of purpose. It takes you from passively enduring pain to actively engaging with your own spiritual growth. When you trust Allah during hardship, your inner world reorganizes itself. Your fears lose their grip because you recognize that nothing reaches you except by His permission. Your anxiety softens because you remember that the one who is testing you is the same one who loves you more than you can imagine. And your perspective widens, allowing you to see the difficulty not as an obstacle, but as a temporary bridge leading you to a new version of yourself, someone stronger, someone clearer, someone more connected to their creator. There is also a philosophical depth in trusting Allah through adversity. Hardship forces you to confront questions that comfort never brings. Who am I when everything I relied on is taken away? What does it mean to succeed when the usual definitions no longer apply? Where do I find meaning when life doesn't match my expectations? These are the questions that refine the soul, and when you allow Allah to guide you through them, your identity becomes anchored not in circumstances, but in faith. Spiritually, hardship becomes a purification. It removes arrogance by reminding you that you are human. It removes attachment to the dunya by showing you how temporary everything is. It removes complacency by pushing you to reconnect with Allah in ways you may have neglected. And perhaps the most beautiful part is that hardship often brings you back to your dua. When life is easy, supplication becomes routine. When life becomes heavy, dua becomes real. It becomes the language of the heart. It becomes your lifeline. Of course, trusting Allah doesn't mean pretending the pain doesn't hurt. Islam never asks you to suppress your emotions. It asks you to anchor them. Cry if you must, feel the weight of what you're going through, acknowledge the struggle, but do it with the certainty that Allah is guiding every step. You are not being broken, you are being reshaped. And when you come out on the other side, and you'll realize something profound. You didn't just survive the hardship, you evolved through it. That evolution becomes the gift hidden inside the struggle. So when hardship visits your life, don't just endure it. Engage with it, trust Allah through it, because the heart that trusts in hardship becomes the heart that transforms in ease. When we speak of trusting Allah, we often limit our vision to protection, guidance, or relief from hardship. But the reality is far richer. Trust in Allah opens the door to blessings far beyond what we could imagine or plan for ourselves. This is where the transformative power of Tawakkul truly becomes visible. When your heart surrenders fully to Him, life begins to change in ways that go beyond the obvious. You start noticing opportunities appearing where there seemed to be none. You begin to sense support from people you had not expected. You experience solutions to problems that once felt impossible. This is the reality of divine facilitation. It is subtle, profound, and often entirely unexpected. Psychologically, this has a remarkable effect on the human heart. When you operate from a place of trust, fear diminishes because your reliance is no longer on the fragile constructs of your own control. You start making decisions with clarity, not desperation. You begin to act with confidence, knowing that even if outcomes don't match your expectations, they are aligned with a plan far superior to your own. This shift is life-changing because it moves you from reactive living to proactive faith-centered living. Instead of constantly trying to manipulate circumstances, you begin to align yourself with what Allah has already orchestrated, and that alignment brings a profound sense of ease and fulfillment. Philosophically, trusting Allah in this way reflects an understanding of reality that is both humble and liberating. You recognize that what He gives is better than what you ask for, not necessarily because your desires are flawed, but because your perspective is limited. Imagine trying to see the world through a tiny keyhole. Your vision is narrow, incomplete, and prone to error. Allah sees the entire landscape, every path, every obstacle, every hidden blessing. When you trust Him, you allow your life to be guided by that infinite vision, which inevitably brings results far beyond what your finite mind could conceive. This is also why trust becomes transformative. It doesn't merely change your circumstances, it changes your perception of circumstances. You begin to notice the hidden support, the quiet guidance, the chance encounters, the solutions that arrive at exactly the right moment. You see how doors close not to punish, but to redirect. You see how unexpected help arrives, teaching you that life is not a product of random events, but a network of divine wisdom in motion. And when you recognize this, your heart becomes resilient, your mind becomes sharp, and your spirit becomes anchored in certainty. Spiritually, the impact of trust is even deeper. Tawakkul draws you closer to Allah because it requires a personal surrender that is both intimate and courageous. It is not a general belief that Allah is wise, but a lived reality that your heart experiences daily, moment by moment. And as you feel the results of that trust, the easing of burdens, the unfolding of opportunities, the subtle guidance in decisions, you start to see life itself as a reflection of Allah's mercy and wisdom. This awareness does not just comfort you, it transforms you. It transforms how you act, how you plan, how you respond to setbacks, and how you relate to others. Of course, trusting Allah does not mean ignoring effort. It means acting fully, striving sincerely, and planning intelligently, while knowing that the ultimate outcome is in His hands. That combination of action and surrender is what brings true transformation. Your effort sets the stage, your trust allows the divine plan to flourish, and the results often surpass what you imagined. You learn to walk through life with a sense of freedom, knowing that the weight of uncertainty is lifted when it is carried by Allah. So when you place your trust fully in Allah, understand this. He will guide you, protect you, and provide for you, but He will also exceed your expectations. Life begins to unfold with a richness you could never manufacture on your own. The key is to surrender completely, act sincerely, and then watch as transformation follows in ways that are subtle, profound, and enduring. Trust Allah not only for what you need, but for what you cannot even imagine, and watch as your life transforms in ways your heart always hoped for, but your mind never conceived.